So you have a passive aggressive boss and you've watched some of my other videos, you've identified that they are in fact being passive aggressive, they're making comments that just aren't rubbing you correctly, and now you want to address it. Yikes. How do we do that? Welcome, my name is Gabriel Arroyo. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist located in Southern California. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our weekly videos on mental health related topics and helpful coping skills for you to apply in your own everyday lives. So you have a passive aggressive boss and now you want to address it. How do we deal with a passive aggressive boss? So in my other videos, I talked about identifying passive aggressive behavior and how to deal with people that are making passive aggressive comments or remarks, and maybe those videos didn't really help you on how you're going to address your boss because it's your boss. Like, what do you do? So in this video, I'm talking about 3 simple tips on how to address a passive aggressive boss. And make sure to watch all the way to the end because I'm going to give a bonus tip on how to deal with passive aggressive bosses. So the first most important one is remain calm and be mindful. So check out some of my other videos on what mindfulness is and how you're going to practice mindfulness in a situation like this. But the absolute worst thing you could do in a job and in a professional environment is react. So you're having your boss give you passive aggressive comments and their passive aggressive behaviors, and you're getting flustered and frustrated. The worst thing we could do, absolute worst we could do, is react or lose our own cool or even do something passive aggressive back. Remember, passive aggressive behavior is identified by those undesirable patterns and behaviors. So if we're refusing to do the task or refusing to do the work just because of how they presented, well, that's passive aggressive back, and that could lead to consequences for us. Even if your boss is completely in the wrong, I wouldn't take that chance if it was me of like, okay, well, you're being passive aggressive, so I'm not going to do that work. Don't do that. That's absolutely the worst thing we could do. So the first thing is just remaining calm and being mindful, deciding how we want to respond to this situation if our boss is in fact being passive aggressive. Tip number 2 is ask them to identify what they're meaning. So I took a beat, I did whatever it is they asked me to do and whatever is essentially my job, and I identified that their behavior is passive aggressive. I don't like it. I'm remaining calm, I'm remaining mindful, and now it's time to approach them about it. So I don't want to just go head on and say, hey, you're being passive aggressive with what you told me to do. I'm still remaining calm, and then I'm asking them for clarification. Hey boss, this is what you had said yesterday. It didn't really make much sense to me, so I just want to clarify what exactly you were expecting of me and what you were wanting from me. So I'm putting the ball back in their court. Once again, if I directly address a passive aggressive person, more than likely they're gonna retreat and they're going to deny. So I want to avoid that when there's a power dynamic with a supervisor or a boss. So I'm going to ask them what their intention was. I'm not calling out the behavior. I'm just asking them, hey, I was kind of confused about what was discussed and how you said this yesterday. So can you give me a little bit more clarification and what was the intention there? So that is step number 2. Step number 3 is ask for your preferred method of communication. So we're kind of going a little bit indirect with this. So we're essentially, this comes to setting our boundary, but doing it in an indirect way. Because remember, we have this power dynamic. If this was my friend that was being passive aggressive, I'm going to tell him straight up, hey, don't do this. This is what I want you to do instead. If you want something from me, just say it directly. Boss, not so much. So it's my boss, I asked for the intention, and now I'm giving them my preferred method of communication. Got it, boss, this is what you wanted me to do, this task. Here's the best way for me to understand that. So maybe in the future when you want me to do X, Y, or Z, this is how you could approach me with it. How does that sound? So now I'm approaching this in a more collaborative way versus a demanding way, like I would with a friend, a family member, or any other type of relationship. And then the bonus tip is just ask them for support, right? We're kind of playing to egos here now. Once again, if you watch the other videos, which I'll link below, about what passive aggressive behavior is and why people are passive aggressive, there's a little bit of ego thing there. So we're playing to the ego and we're collaborating with them, asking them, how do we collaborate? I want to be on your team, boss, and I enjoy working with you and I want to understand you a little bit more. So I'm asking for their support of how to communicate mutually. So remember, the dynamic is completely different in a supervisory role. So we have to be mindful of that and kind of play to that, because ultimately I don't want to get fired because my boss is passive aggressive. So I'm going to approach it in a manner of, I'm trying to collaborate with you and I want to work as a team. So how can I best understand you to communicate with me so that way I could do the job that you hired me for? Right? So here's the 4 simple tips of how to deal with a passive aggressive boss. If you have any questions below or something isn't working for you, comment below, leave a question. And once again, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our weekly videos on mental health related topics and helpful coping skills for you to apply in your own everyday lives.